What we're going to talk about today is the difference between brake system in a truck and brake systems in a car. There's a couple of major differences with the brakes from a motor car to a truck. The first notable difference is the brakes in the truck are worked on a basis of compressed air, whereas your brake system in your motor car is worked on a basis of brake fluid or hydraulic fluid. The other notable difference is the brake pedal in the truck is what we refer to as a floor-mounted brake pedal. So in other words, it actually hinges from the floor, whereas in your motor car you're used to having what we call a pendulum brake system or brake pedal, which is where it's actually located or hinges from up under the dash and hangs off the floor and works in a pendulum style motion. Now, as you can see down here, we've got the typical accelerator and we've also got the brake pedal located here. Now, as I mentioned before, it is actually mounted on the floor. Okay, so the brake pedal itself actually works away from your foot, not like a pendulum like what you find in your motor car. Now, when you're operating the brake pedal, it is absolutely critical that you need to maintain your heel to stay on the heel pad, as you can see here. What a lot of people try to do is when they put the foot on the brake pedal, they get the whole foot completely up onto the brake without the heel of their shoe sitting on the brake heel rest at all. And what that effectively does is, it's like you're trying to hold your foot off the floor, and when you go over a rough road, your foot will tend to jump on and off the brake pedal, and thus becoming very difficult to control the brakes while you're trying to slow the vehicle up. The advantage of having your heel sitting down there on the heel pad itself is that with your heel sitting on the heel pad, as the truck goes over the rougher road, your foot's actually following the bumping of the truck, and then you can find you can lever off that floor pad, finding that brake, and you maintain far better control over your braking systems. Also, by having your heel up onto the brake pedal itself, if you happen to brake a little bit too hard, as your body momentum goes forwards, you'll find you'll automatically be applying that brake harder when maybe in situations you're not intentionally trying to brake any heavier than what you were initially, but with the body weight going forwards, you will tend to squeeze that brake pedal much firmer to the ground. Now, with brakes in the truck, because they're worked on an air brake system, the technical name for that brake pedal is not actually a brake pedal. It's referred to as a treadle valve. Now, valve here is the key word, okay? So, with the air system itself, you'll always find under generally the right front corner of the tray is where you find your air tanks or your air cylinders, which are full of compressed air, and they're kept replenished full of compressed air via an air pump which runs off the side of the main engine. Now, the way the system basically works, in a quick little mechanical lesson for you viewers, is that the air pressure that's in those tanks is already up to one side of the brake pedal. Okay, it's trying to force its way through, but because the valve or the foot is off the brake pedal, the valve is actually completely closed and thus not allowing the air to pass through the brake pedal to get to the wheels themselves. When you apply the brake pedal down, obviously that motion opens up the valve proportionally, which allows air to pass through the brake pedal and then travels to the wheels and then applies the brakes. The reason why a lot of people have a lot of trouble trying to control air brakes is that mechanically in the air system, with the nature, by the way, that the air brakes actually work, there is a very small delay between application of the brake pedal and the reaction at the wheels. The reason for that delay is exactly as I just explained it to you. When you actually just apply the brake pedal, the air's got to travel through that brake pedal, down the brake lines, get to the wheels, push the shoes out on the drums before you actually get any effect of braking whatsoever. And that's where people go wrong. That's why you'll find a lot of people who have actually driven a truck maybe in the yard, driving it around, or maybe just driving the truck a small distance down the road. They'll always come back and say, "Yeah, wow, those air brakes were pretty touchy." And the reason for it is that they're trying to operate the brake exactly the same as you would in your motor car. In other words, they're applying the brake pedal and they continually squeeze the brake pedal down until they feel something happening, not allowing for this delay in the system. And of course, by the time you've pressed the brake pedal hard enough for something to happen, you've actually applied too much brake pedal, there's too much air's gone to the wheels, too much air's gone to the brakes, and the brakes literally come on very suddenly, not very progressively like the operator is intending to do so. So the technique with actually applying the brake is to not to apply the brake in one continual motion. You need to be able to apply the brake to a certain pressure, where you know you've just cracked that valve open, and literally hold the brake steady at that point and allow the air to do its job to get to the wheels, to put the shoes out in the drums, to actually start to get some brakes operating. Once you've actually got those brakes working, then there is no more delay in the system. So if you wish to brake a little bit heavier, the brakes will come on instantly harder, and if you wish to brake a little bit lighter without coming completely off the brake, then the brakes will go a little bit lighter. Okay. However, once you have released that brake pedal completely, you've released all the air out of the air lines and out of the brake system itself. So then on your next application of the brake, again, you've got to allow for that minute delay for the air to get to the wheels themselves. And that is what we spent a lot of time with KMS driving school in the initial lessons, is just being able to drive the truck nice and slowly and be able to stop the truck nice and smoothly. Because after all, there's not really much point in being able to drive down the street and doing 40 to 60 k's an hour and then not be able to control the truck in the braking side of things, and then potentially have an accident. So always in our first lessons, when we take you for your first drive, a lot of emphasis is put on being able to control that brake nicely. And once you've got the truck under control really nicely with the brake pedal, we find that everything else tends to work nicely after that. Nice gear changes, nice RPM reduction in speeds, and good control of the nice smooth stop without throwing us through the front windscreen. Okay, cheers till next time.